I recall my school days when I was 12 years old. I told you my language story earlier. I was thirsty and I wanted to get some water, but I could not get it because I did not know the word water in Nepali. That was quite frustrating. It was impossible for me to have a conversation. Basically, I knew what it felt to be dumb. I still remember when I went to a shop and I wanted to exchange a Coke bottle to get a new filled bottle. I had a very funny conversation with the shopkeeper back then because they didn't understand what I wanted. In the end, I returned back with my empty Coke bottle. Then I still have a memory of when I was 6 years old and I was in Paris. I had just begun to learn how to understand the French language and how to talk in French. I was at a friend's house and we were playing his swing. In my mind, I wanted to say that I would hide his swing when we were having a talk on some funny things we could do. But in French, hiding is pronounced as cacher. However, what I ended up saying was casser. Now, what it means is to break. So my friend understood, or should I say misunderstood, what I said as the funny thing I could do is to break his swing. Of course, he was quite upset. Then I realized my mistake in pronunciation and that he got it wrong, or should I say, I got it wrong. Still, I did not have the words to say, no, sorry, I did not mean casser, but I did meant cacher. Even after many years in contact with him, I never could explain myself to him. So, in my conscious life, I experience the importance of talking and being understood two times. Many of us who go to foreign countries for work would experience this situation at least once in a lifetime. However, in my case, being a student, I had to master both the French language when I was 6 years old and the Nepali language when I was 12 years old. Of course, as you remember, my English was no better. Among the four components of language, talking definitely was the most obvious and awkward part of any language that I had to learn. But fast forward 4 years, and I was able to slowly express myself. Still, I would not be able to get into debates and arguments with my friends because I did not have the capacity to talk in Nepali and even in English. In this chapter, when I talk about the capacity to talk, I'm not talking about the confidence level or even the verbal or non-verbal components of communication. No, here I am limiting the scope of talking to the expression of thoughts and feelings to others and to oneself. This is what education should enable a student. This is what I imply by the capacity to talk. So earlier when I said that I could not debate with friends because I did not have the capacity to talk, I meant that I could not express the thoughts and the feelings that I was having during an argument, first to myself and then to others. In order to be able to talk, as per my definition, you need to have a vocabulary. You need to have enough words to associate with some thoughts and feelings that you are having. So, If you are feeling an emotion, your brain must be able to find a word that would best describe that sensation. If you are having a thought or an opinion, then first of all, you must find a word that carries what you are trying to say. This vocabulary doesn't necessarily need to come from school. It can come from your interaction with other people in the community, while in the books the definition will be provided by simpler words. In the real world, the definition will be provided by pointing to that particular object or hand gestures. However, the idea about talking well is to have a vast vocabulary. Simple words like happy versus sad, agree versus disagree, believable versus absurd, interesting versus boring, shy versus afraid, frustrated versus depressed, never versus always, and so on, are needed to have this capacity to talk. The more we interact with people and the more we read, the bigger our vocabulary will become. Then, in order to talk properly, one must be able to know the various elements of grammar. Of course, just to talk, you do not need to know grammar elements like noun, verb, adverb, adjective, adverb, conjunctions, prepositions, and so on. Even a child, without knowing any of these, can talk. The secret is to know that you want to be understood. Let me explain. In your mind, you want to say, what action do you want to be done? So that is the verb. Being consistent with my earlier language story, the feeling that I'm having was thirsty. So the verb associated would be drink. The next question that I will need to answer in order to be understood is, what about drinking? The answer would be want to drink because I'm thirsty. The next question that would be needed to be answered is, who wants to drink? So that would be the subject, or I. The logical question is, what do you want to drink? The answer would be water, and that is the adverb. In this way, even as a boy who doesn't know anything about grammar, I have used it in order to talk. Now, in talking, all the rules of grammar apply, and in fact, grammar was born from talking and analyzing it. This follows that somebody who is very well educated in the languages and has got a very thorough knowledge of grammar will be able to speak better. But again, many uneducated people talk very well and are understood pretty much as well. When people talk, they find it also difficult because they do not know how to combine the breathing with what they want to say. Mostly it is because they were never taught properly recitation or simply reading out loud in class where they could be corrected by a good grammar teacher. This is a privilege that I had when I was in primary school in Paris. The teacher would make us read out loud the passage in books. When we would not stop at a full stop, she would remind us that it's time for you to just swallow your saliva before you begin the next sentence. Then, if we did not stop at a comma, she would again remind us to pause for a very short time at least. Finally, if we rushed from one paragraph to the other paragraph, she would remind us that it was now time to take a long breath. In this way, that teacher taught us how to make use of silence as we talked in order to make ourselves understood properly by others. Nobody likes somebody who keeps talking continuously without stopping. This is because we can't make sense of what that person is saying. Our brain registers the syntax of subject, verb, adverb in the English language, although in other languages the syntax is different. So when we listen to somebody, we all want to make sense of what is being said. This is where the commas, full stops, and paragraphs changes occur. But when we are talking, we cannot see these punctuation marks. So we have to use pauses, either to slow down, or to swallow our saliva, or to take a long breath. So in order to have the capacity to talk, besides vocabulary, you also must be able to know grammar and learn about how to use pauses. The more you interact with people and the more you read, the more words we have in our vocabulary that you already know. But in order to talk effectively, you will also need to have an arsenal of expressions, idioms, analogies, metaphors that will help you to convey your feelings and thoughts. To be able to do that, you will need to read more, if not watch more movies or documentaries in the language that you are seeking to improve to talk in. This is why most of the children, when they are very young, they don't talk a lot, but after a certain age, they're able to talk eloquently. This was because at the beginning they were just acquiring the vocabulary, the expressions, the various terms needed from the interactions with others. Then a point is reached when the neurons in their brain combine, and then they just start talking. But something else happens before we can talk to the world. The capacity to talk also involves our inner dialogue. Talking is also about expressing one's thoughts and feelings to oneself. In fact, as a child, we all experienced that stage where the beginning we did not have the capacity to think, and then we developed that capacity, and then only we were able to talk. The truth is that we will be ending talking more to ourselves than to others. One of the main reasons people are sad and make the wrong decisions is that they are not able to talk effectively to themselves. In my career as a motivator and counselor, it's become so obvious to me as I talk to the clients. They are suffering because they do not have the capacity to talk to themselves. They are not able to give a name to the pain that they are suffering. They are not able to give a name to the concepts and mechanisms that they think is causing the suffering, even though they have a strong feeling about it. This is where training and counseling is needed. Those clients, when they meet a counselor or a trainer, are provided new words, new ideas, expressions, metaphors, verbalized concepts that their brain were thirsty for. Then their neurons just grab those words and fits them in the neural puzzle of theirs. Now they are able to talk themselves out of the misery that they are in. Many times it's that simple. Even when the pain isn't relieved from the simple talking process, this is the starting point for any further internal transformation. For that, they would be needed to add more words and concepts. So talking is very important in language. The standard of a person is often determined by the way he talks. By that we mean the words that he uses, as well as his pronunciation. The capacity to talk is also the capacity to be able to articulate words with the correct pronunciation and enough volume with enough clarity so that the other person can understand. The capacity to talk doesn't mean that somebody is able to give a speech in front of 1,000 people. That is a different field altogether. That is public speaking. Now, when I meant the capacity of talking, I just mean that any person, any student, any human being should be able to express himself, his thoughts, and his feelings to himself and then to the world in such a way that he'll be understood. So, from this section, you have understood that talking doesn't just happen magically, but it's a process, like listening was. It can be mastered, and we'll talk more about it in the later sections in this chapter.